I remember reading that script and trying to find that character, and I remember having a small problem because when I get in front of the camera, I always like to believe that less is more. And Jack wasn't really a less being more kind of person. But I remember just kind of getting this character in my head and not really knowing how I was going to have the energy to really pull it off. And I remember one day we were in rehearsal and I thought, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I want to drink some coffee, because I don't drink coffee. Every morning when I came to rehearsal, I would get me a cup of coffee because that would spark me to have that energy I needed to find out where Jack was. Because Jack was on speed and heroin and cocaine and all kind of bullshit. But yeah, you know, I dug in there, man. Then once I got the caffeine in, it was easy for me to, you know, pull it up when I didn't have any caffeine in, because I knew what it felt like. I played Jack more on an honest level, on a level of like more of a caring person and, you know, being an asshole at the same time. But at the same time, you know, even assholes are caring people. You know what I mean? Even drug addicts have a human side to them. You just don't ever get to see it because most of the time when you run into them, they're on drugs. If you're not around people, like really around people who are in that life, then you never really understand those people. Well, I've been around people that's been in that life. I've been around drug users, drug dealers. I've been around pimps, you know, and all of these people, when it comes to their women, in some insane way, they all have a love for the women that they're with. I chose to give Jack that heart because it's much more interesting to see someone who is, you know, so far left actually live so far right in his heart. You know what I'm saying? No matter what kind of person it is, it's just more of a dynamic, and that's what acting is about. When you make a character interesting, there's nothing interesting about a guy who's just running around yelling at people and being mean. You know, it's more interesting if you see this guy that you think is this, you know, insane person, all of a sudden turn around and have a really caring, jealous heart. I just think that, you know, that choice was a much more interesting choice than just the guy who's doing drugs and selling drugs and, you know, having wild sex with the girl, you know. Rehearsing to me is building a base. You know, any time I get to build a base for something, it's better for me, because then there are ways I can go and things I can do that I don't get to do when, you know, someone gives me a script and I get it that day and I gotta have it that day and I gotta go in front of the camera that day. That's when I turn off. You know, and I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean when that happens, I have to turn Glenn off. Like literally turn Glenn off and just kind of let these words speak for themselves. When I was coming up in this business, I used to have like maybe 2 or 3 jobs a year, and you know, people would see me on screen and I'd be in this movie and on that television show, and then I'd be in this movie at the end of the year, and they'd look at me like, dude, you work all the time. And, you know, and they didn't know that, you know, out of 125 auditions, 122 times, they said no. And those 3 times, they said yeah. You know, so I spent like whole years being told no. You have to be prepared, you know, to go through a whole lot of rejection, you know, and if you're not comfortable in your own skin, it can send you up a wall. So, you know, you always got to keep a little bit for yourself. Make sure you're auditioning more for yourself than for people sitting in the room. When I walk in a room and I have an audition, I just try and make sure that it's better than the last audition. That way I'm not auditioning for them, I'm auditioning for me.